Somebody's got to do it for Dallas. So you were brought on, and your first order of business was to impact diversity and inclusion in the company. How did you go about that? What was the first thing that you did?
Okay, so when I joined the Mavs after getting the call from Mark Cuban, who I actually did not know at the time, he called. I didn't know Mark, that my husband had to tell me, who he was. And so, he did. He goes, Mark, I'll make it real short, but I was on a call. I retired. I started my own company. I was on a call with one of my clients. And so my phone kept going off. And I have 4 kids. And 2 of them were in college at the time. And so I thought, honestly, when my phone kept going off, I thought it was one of my kids texting for money. And so, because I had, I'm a busy woman, so I just tell them, you don't have to tell me the whole backstory. We can get that later. Just, you need $272 for a book. Just tell me what it is. So I really thought that's what it was. So I had my husband's phone and I said, one of the kids need money. And then he came back and he said, hang up there. He said, get up. That was another house phone. He goes, hang up. He said, this guy doesn't need any money. I said, what? He said, Mark Cuban is trying to reach you. I said, who is that? I didn't know what. People laugh when I say that. I said, well, you didn't know who I was. Okay. So anyway, so when so he wanted to see me at 2 o'clock that day. And actually, ladies, you will appreciate this. I told him I could not see him at 2 o'clock because I had a mammogram scheduled. And so he said, okay, well, you want me to come to you? Like, no, I don't need you to come to the mammogram. Okay. And he wasn't trying to come to the mammogram. He was actually trying to make it convenient for me. So when I finally went to see him, he told me what was going on. And so I told him I need to pray about it. 2 women stopped me as I was leaving his office and told me what was going on with them and just really pleaded with me to take the job. So went home, prayed about it, came back the next day. I ended up saying yes. So then my very first meeting, I'm sitting down and there are 10 men around the table, like literally 10 white men around the table. Then so I'm like, well, okay. No women at the table. So then these other 2 women walked in. One was on an interim title, who should have been permanent. She's one of the best leaders in the organization, on an interim title, and someone else who wasn't even on the payroll. So I think they were trying to fake me out. Okay? So I learned very quickly that there were no women in permanent leadership at the Mavs. And so I definitely believe in the diversity dividend that McKinsey talks about, that if you are going to be successful as a business, and I saw this in my 36 years at AT&T, you need a diverse group of voices around the table. And so our workplace promise at the Mavs is every voice matters and everybody belongs. We need everybody around the table. So within my first 90 days, I laid out, and it was a simple recipe for me. It was a vision that said we would set the global standard in the MBA for diversity and inclusion, because I figured if we focused on that, every aspect of our business would be profitable. And I laid out a set of values, the spells, crafts, character, respect, authenticity, fairness, teamwork, and safety, both physical and emotional safety. We laid out a 100-day plan in 4 major parts. The first part was model zero tolerance. I mean, just put whatever infrastructure we needed in place for people to speak up. We had an investigation, so we were going to have to handle some departures, all of that. The second piece was a Mavs women's agenda, an expressed agenda around women, things that we would do to educate, elevate, and empower women. Then we had all of our cultural transformation activities and our operational effectiveness activities. And part of the operational effectiveness piece was around market-based compensation, looking at gender pay equity, all of that kind of stuff. In fact, my very first thing that I asked our CFO and COO for, I said, I need to see the salaries of everybody in this place. Literally my first request. I said, I need it broken down by gender and ethnicity. So they bring it back and say, well, we can't find it. Like, we don't have it. So they bring me this list back of like 120 people, and there's no, I can't figure it out. So I said, okay, I need this by gender and ethnicity, because the first thing I was trying to figure out is for the few women that were in the place, how are we treating them? And so I said, okay, well, I guess y'all gonna sit here with me, and I'm gonna go through every name, and you're going to tell me this male, female, you're gonna give me everything I asked for. So we sat there for 3 hours. going through that. Okay, I can tell you right now today, we do not have a gender pay equity issue at the Dallas Mavericks. Now today, okay, so within 90 days, my leadership team was 50% women and 50% people of color. I brought in 2 women with me in leadership positions. We promoted some folks. In fact, one of the folks, Janet Feingo, hey Janet, her daughter Erin is a superstar who is one of our senior vice presidents of communications, content, and events. She is amazing, was already there in a temp title. I mean, just a superstar. So we promoted some folks there, and then we hired some new people. And I remember one of the staff meetings, once they were all in place, I walked in, kind of a funny story, and I walked in the staff meeting, and so the men were all sitting in a horseshoe at the front of the table. The women, I mean, at the back of the table, the women were kind of in a horseshoe at the front of the table. And so it was kind of, you know, it was different because we had women in the room now. And I thought, this is kind of weird. I said, everybody kind of mix it up, right? So when the meeting was over, I jumped to the wrong conclusion. I called the women in my office. I said afterwards, I said, what's going on? I said, did the fellas like not want to sit with you? I mean, we need to all mix in, right? And so one of the ladies said, oh no, we did that on purpose. We all sat at the head of the table to let them know we were in charge. I said, no, I'm trying to have it all blending. Yeah. So it basically came down, the transformation came down to laying out a vision that talked about inclusion and a set of values that are just not on the walls, but operating in the halls. Women at the table, honestly, a diverse group of people at the table. And then we just executed on a 100-day plan that had about 200 initiatives, got everybody involved. We are not perfect, but we are not the organization that we were in 2018.
That is amazing. Okay.
We were very intentional, very intentional. I call it all in leadership, leading with intent, leading with inclusion, leading with inspiration, and leading with insight. And so we have some things we do around all of this.
I wonder, I mean, because you are such a spark. So are there things, and it sounds like there were from what you just described, that you have institutionalized with these changes so that Cynt Marshall goes on to do the next Cynt Marshall big thing?
Yes.
Those changes can be in place.
Yes, I think we have, let me just mention a few, our employee resource groups. And so we have, and some people call them affinity groups, but they're really business groups to help you really run your business. And so we have our affinity groups, and we have the Women of the Mavs was the first one we launched, and it's the Women of the Mavs Empowering Network. So it actually, the initials are women. And so, but what's great about that is we have men in the Women Employee Resource Group. So we have allies in all of these groups to make, and there are 6 of them, to make sure that we are focusing culturally on what we need to focus on, but everybody's involved in that. And we just had our crafts awards where we recognize people who lived our values, who actually are executing the agenda, the employee resource groups and all that. And so that will stay in place. I mean, that is totally in place. I think the infrastructure that we put together around performance management, around pay equity, around how we evaluate performance, that will stay in place. And then there's a place there for all of our leaders, frankly, for all employees, especially leaders, that focuses in on how you actually lead and are you inclusive. So I think that is just embedded in the culture now. And our whole agenda around bringing in outside voices. We started something called the Dallas Mavericks Advisory Council to make sure that we had external people giving us input. And so that will stay in place as well. And our values, we live our values. It's a part of what we do. We have values-based employment. That is not going to change. So when I walk away from the Mavs, I believe all of that will stay in place. And my goal is to have more than 50% women at the table. There's no shame in my game. You want to be successful. You want to be successful. You want to do well as a business. You got to have women at the table.
Well, there's more than 50% of us in the population.
Exactly.
So.
Exactly. We need to reflect the population. To have a business that doesn't reflect the demographics of the population is just not good business. It's just not good business because the market, when you're trying to appeal to the market. Speak a little louder for this.
Okay.
They didn't ask me to speak a little louder.
Yes,
Because I have a big mouth.
All right, I will speak louder for Zoom and for everybody else.
Hello, people on Zoom.
Okay, so one of the reasons why we really excited to have you here is your pin. I voted, okay?
Yes.
So NCJW Dallas has a current Get Out and Vote initiative where we have provided almost 1,000 information packets to seniors around the city so that they can, if they need to change their address, if they need to register to vote by mail, all of the above. So that's one thing that we got taken care of lickety split, and we are continuing to make our efforts to get out the vote. And particularly in West Dallas, where we have a partnership with West Dallas Multipurpose Center. We had Karen Edelstein, who was there registering voters during their back to school event. So we're, you know, in the mix, and we know the Mavs are too. Can you give us a little bit of info about how the Mavs are engaged in the Get Out the Vote?
Oh yes, we're all over that. So the campaign a couple years ago, we just said, okay, we talk a lot about every voice matters. So we want to make sure that people know that their vote is their voice. And so we ended up hosting a drive-through registration campaign, a voter registration campaign in our parking lot. And so it was great. It was raining that day too, but people still came out. I mean, we just said, you know, we had all kind of giveaways and ditties for people, but we wanted to show people how important it was. We also opened up the American Airlines Center to actually be a polling place, which was awesome. I mean, my boss actually kind of opened it up. Mark was there to open it up. And so he voted there. I mean, it was terrific. And so we joined a coalition. We got together with the Dallas Wings, the WNBA team. Let's see, it was our Legends organization. It was like 4 teams. And we said, okay, we counted the Counted Coalition. And so we all got together and we did all kind of things around voter registration, using our organizations for polling places and all that. So really trying to bring people together. So this year we are doing the same thing. I mean, we've started already with getting people registered, early voting, all that. I'm going to be out with one of our players on October 28th because that's, I think, National Voting Day or something like that. So we're going to be out with all that. So we have like a list of things. We have a team of people just totally focused on voting. And for us, we're not telling people how to vote. I mean, we're not telling them who to vote for. We're just saying, get out there. I mean, we can't complain about it. We have a lot of issues in this country. Policy matters. Public policy actually matters. And so we want you to get out and vote. I mean, these are our communities. I mean, it's up to all of us. And so we just decided, since we are an organization that naturally convenes people, I mean, that's what we do. We have 82 games, 41 of them are at home. We have 41 parties for 20,000 people every year. And so we naturally bring people together. We said there's no other better way to bring people together and no better cause than to vote, than to make sure people have their voices out there. And so we've taken a leadership role in making sure that people are able to vote. I brought you a list too, so I'll leave this with you. Okay. It's called Mavs Take Action. I don't know if you heard. Mavs Take Action is our social justice initiative, and action stands for advocacy, communication, training, investment, outreach, and noise. So this is part of kind of the advocacy piece. We give people the day off to vote, and so the NBA has made it a priority as well. So the federal election day is a day off. There are no games that will be played on. What is it this year's? No games will be played. Give our folks like 3 days off to advocate, you know, throughout the year. Because it's just important to make sure that that we vote. And so I think we've been a catalyst and also helping the NBA make sure that that word is getting out. So we are serious about it. So Mavs Take Action is our social justice initiative. And so this is where we get to spend a lot of time and resources and employee volunteer hours to make sure that we are focused on causes, and voting is one of those causes. So I brought you a list of all the things we are doing around voting to see if you want to participate in any of those.
Yeah, and we will definitely additionally continue to publicize what the Mavs are doing.
Oh, awesome.
All of our people, so
awesome.
that they can join in when it works in the hand.
Oh, that'll be fabulous, because we're gonna do the voter registration drive again, come out and get some goodies and talk to the media and do all that. And again, we don't tell people who to vote for. We just say, you have to have your voice heard. You have to have your voice heard.
So I'm just thinking, since the Mavs has committed, and the NBA has committed to celebrating our vote and being shut down on election day, do you think, or have you heard any rumors, will the NBA get behind promoting a national holiday on election day?
I don't know if the NBA will, but I'll tell you, the Mavs will get behind that. It's a holiday for our employees.
Yeah.
I mean, we have 3 holidays. I mean, we have Martin Luther King Jr. Service Day, we have Juneteenth Day, and then we have the federal election day. And so we have been leading the NBA in a lot of initiatives. So I don't know why we can't lead that one too. Okay, yes, because we need to have it as a holiday.
I was just curious.
Yes. Oh, just let's drive it. Let's make it happen. That's what we do. Let's make it happen. Let's make it happen. We need that day off, and everybody just go and do what you need to do at the polls, and then we have nothing to complain about. We all participate in the process, and however it comes out is how it comes out, and then we rally around what happens. But when you don't participate, you gotta just kind of be quiet.
There's, no Sunday quarterbacking or Monday morning quarterbacking. Sundays.
No, I'm huge on the vote. My kids are big on it. They have to send me, these kids these days, they post everything on social media and all that. So they send me the picture, then they post kind of where they are and what they're doing to vote and all that stuff. It's huge. We have to raise our kids that way too.
Yep. Have the Mavs had a focus in particular on the youth vote? I mean,
yes. So we have partnered with several youth organizations just in our normal course of business. So we're pulling all of them into the voting piece. The Girl Scouts, we're pulling them in. We have a lot of different youth organizations for Oak Cliff. What we try to do is cover the geography. We're making sure that we are out everywhere, even places that are underrepresented or marginalized. We're out there too, pulling in the youth vote. And we're big on the senior vote as well. And making sure we can help people get to the polls. Early voting is a big focus for us because sometimes people can't get out on that day. So that's why I'm actually going out with one of our players on October 28th to actually vote. So you'll probably see me out there because our Arcellian team, they do a great job. Erin is a beast around media. Okay, she is so good. So she'll have some camera, I'm sure, on me while I'm voting.
So yesterday, some of us had the privilege to watch you in action being made here with Allison Felix.
Oh, that was so fun. Oh, she's amazing.
She's amazing. And there was one of the things that she said during that conversation. I think when she was talking about, so she started her own shoe company.
Yes.
Because for many reasons, but one of the reasons being that the lasts that people make shoes off of, shoe companies make their shoes off of, are based on a man's foot. And
did y'all know that?
So, and I
did not know that.
I didn't either. And she was like, well, that's crazy because, we're different. So she started her own shoe company. And one of the things that is based on the last of a woman's foot. And one of the things she said, when you asked her, why did you decide to go out and do this when there's lots of other people who make shoes? And she said, she was talking to her brother and she wanted to create the change instead of pushing someone else to make the changes that she sought. And that really resonated with me. I feel like that's a lot of what NCJW does. It's a lot of what you all are doing at the Mavs.
Yes. We make it happen. We take action.
Take it. And it also reminded me of one of my favorite Gandhi sayings, which is be the change you want to see in the world.
Yes.
So you seem very driven to make the world a better place.
Yes.
And where for you, where does that drive come from?
I think it probably comes from my mom. Even though my mom had a lot of challenges and coming from Birmingham, Alabama, and growing up in the Jim Crow segregated South, and then going to California to experience something better, she knew that she needed to be a part of what that better looked like. And so she needed to have a hand in it. And so I've always seen my mom, and she had us involved in volunteer activities and doing things to make the world better. Even growing up poor and growing up in a housing project, I vividly remember just about every weekend we were doing something to make the world better. We were walking, to different places, to convalescent home, just wherever, just to try to make things better. And so that's just really a part of, I think, who I am, and also being a woman of faith, and having studied the Bible and all that. I know that that's my role. I mean, that is my role in life, to make this world better. That no person is an island. We all need each other, and we have to be there for each other. So I told my kids a long time ago, I said, when I am laid out in my casket, and I better be in something that looks good, and y'all better have me right, okay? I said, y'all better have a sister looking good. When I am laid out, all I wanted to say is, she left it better than she found it. That's all I wanted to say. It doesn't have to say anything about titles, all of my accomplishments and awards. I just want people to know that I made it better. And so in order for them to write that, it has to be true. And so I'm focused on it every day. What can I do to leave it better? And I know I got that from my mom and from the Bible.
You are NCJW because we're all here. NCJW was started 125 years ago.
Wow.
At the calling, moved by Jewish values to repair the world.
Yes.
And so everybody who comes to NCJW, no matter what their religious background that they bring, they are sisters in that work.
Yes.
So
We are sisters.
yes. So
I felt that when I walked in. We are sisters. I did. I felt when I walked in.
I feel like I need to give other people an opportunity to ask you some questions.
Awesome.
So I was going to walk around with a microphone, but instead I will perhaps call from here or stand up so I can see everybody. And if anyone has questions for Cynt, now is the time. And I'm also really going to grab my phone in case I get some texts from our Zoomers.
Awesome.
So, Renee.
Awesome.
All right, so you talked about the mom being an inspiration, but for those of us in this group that have had that inspiration and are at it every day, what sustains you? What are the pieces that keep you in the fight?
Okay, so thank you for that question. What keeps me in the fight every day? And I told a reporter this when they asked me about why did I come to the Mavs, and it just slipped out, so then I had to clean it up a little bit afterwards. But I said I did it for the sisterhood, because I am so focused every day on making this world better, especially for women. I'm making sure that women are treated fairly, on making sure that we are recognized for the fabulous people that we are, who truly run the place, okay? And so I'm focused on that, and it drives me every day. So it drives me, to want to be excellent and to want to do a good job. I'm also focused on the fact that in a lot of times I'm the only Black person or the only Black woman to have done it. So I want to get it right, because I don't want to be the last. So I'm driven by making sure the second, third, and fourth are coming, and that I do such a good job that folks are looking for somebody like me to do big jobs. So I'm very driven by wanting to make sure I'm a good role model, and I'm blazing a trail for people that's a good trail. I am driven by a personal sense of just wanting to help people. That is in my DNA. And I believe every day presents an opportunity to help people. I mean, the title of my book, You've Been Chosen. I believe I've been chosen to be in the places that I've been in, to go through the things that I've gone through. And so I'm driven by wanting to provide that hope and that light and sense of faith for people. So I'm just driven by that every day. And I'm inspired by the goodness in the world, but I'm also inspired by the crazy stuff that goes on, because I'll hear something and I'll tell my husband, we got to fix that. And he's like, okay, we got to fix what? because every day, like it's something different. It's like, I have a personal passion about things. I have a passion for permanence and stability for our children, having adopted 4 kids out of foster care. and knowing their abandoned, abuse and neglect stories. And so knowing how their lives have changed because they ended up in a permanent situation. So I'm driven by that. But sometimes I'll see something that's just outside of my passion point. Like education is another passion point for me. That's why I love teachers. I think they're the best people on the planet. You'll read the book, but 3 teachers and a principal literally saved my life. And so I'm driven by making sure kids get a good education. But every now and then I'll see something on TV, and then I'll send something to my team. I'll send Aaron a text, and I said, we got to get in this. Like, we got to get in this. And they don't know what's coming, because our job is to make things better, period. And sometimes it might not be a personal passion, but sometimes you got to come out of that passion. So I'm just inspired by a sense of wanting to make the world better. And I mean, I have a passion for it. I wake up in the morning. You know, people say, what keeps you up at night? I said, nothing. I don't go to bed till like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. So nothing keeps, but the question for me is, what gets you up in the morning? And what gets me up in the morning is a sense of wanting to make a difference and wanting to touch people and wanting to rally with a group of people to make something happen, to make something good happen. That's why I love these women here, because y'all are about making stuff happen. And that's what I'm about, making things happen. I'm not about sitting on the sidelines. Like, we got too much work to do. Too much. Hi, Elaine. That's my book pen.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for the pen. You like your pen?
It's her pen, actually.
Oh, thank you for your pen.
For 110 years almost, NCJW Dallas has always been, if there's a need, we want to fix it.
Yes.
There's so much need in this community right now and in the world. How do you prioritize what to fix first?
Okay. I love that question. What I try to think about is what will have the lasting impression, what will have the biggest impact. And for me, I think it's making sure that our women and families, so our women and children, are taken care of, and that they have a good shot at life. Again, that's why I love teachers. We do a lot with teachers. We adopted an elementary school, a Dale Turner Elementary School. I told my team, we're just going to adopt a school. We're going to take it over. We're going to come alongside the principal and those teachers, and whatever they need, we're going to be there for them. Because if you can impact a child, I believe you can change the world. And so that's what we look at, long-term impact and starting deep. And so there are some, it's like at a hospital, there are some acute situations that pop up, and we can take care of those pretty quickly. But then there's that deep stuff that you have to just address that might take years to heal or years to address. And that's where we have the impact on the kids. And so we look at women and families. We do a lot with the different women's shelters and all that. So that's why the work with the Texas Women's Foundation is so important to us. So we look at, we try to focus there. But we do both. I mean, we do both. We do very impactful work, but then sometimes the need would come up and we have the resources. So we help with the resources. And my husband asked that question a lot, because even in my own company, my consulting company, Marshalling Resources, our focus is on women and children education, sending kids to college and all that. But every now and then something will pop up, and he said, is that within our zone? Yeah, dude, it's all within the zone. Okay, it's all within the zone, whatever we can do to help people. But women and children, that's a big focus for us. Thank you for that question.
Thank you.
Yes.
Helen, this might be an easy question, but I'm just curious. I heard you sell from that restoration.
Yes. Yes.
I'm also the mother of 3 sons.
Beautiful.
And I'm very involved in this organization. But I love to hear you speak to the the sons that we raised. I remember when my boys were little, we all walk us through the door and stuff. And then I say, oh, I really want to say, no, you're not. And they said, well, you can do that. We're going to do it. And you're doing it. I was a single mom. A lot of my focus has been on the beach. That demands have to be.
Yes.
And like with this.
Yes. Oh, I can certainly speak to it. I have 4 children, so I have 2 sons and 2 daughters. And usually when people ask me, how many kids do you have? I say I have 2 mama's boys and 2 daddy's girls. Because they are my boys, and I love all my kids. The boys are my boys. And so we have spent a lot of time pouring into them, you know, as much into them as we have our daughters. And I want to make sure that my sons, and they have, thank goodness, that they grow up to be wonderful, wonderful young men. And I know as Black young men, they have some challenges. And, you know, they've been racially profiled and all that kind of stuff, but I have raised them to be respectful, raised them to understand that they have a fabulous, important role to play in society. I have raised them to be fine young men who know how to treat people. They know how to respect adults. They know how to treat women. And so when my kids graduate from college, I give them this thing called, like when my son graduated, it said 23 tips for my prince. And so one of the 23 tips was always be respectful to elders, always be patient, always open the door. So the opening the door is a big thing for me. I do not open the door when my sons are around. If people can call it old fashioned, they wouldn't even let me open it if I wanted to, okay? Because that's, I mean, I know it's old fashioned, but that's okay. It's a matter of respect, okay? You put your hand out there, you open it up. And yes, like my husband, I mean, you could tell I'm an independent, strong woman. When I walk up to the car, my husband is going around to the other side. I just wait on my Did you forget what you were taught and what we taught the boys? He's like, oh, and you'll come back around and open it. He knows I can open the door. Okay, so I'm just open with that. It's just a personal preference, but I have absolutely raised them to play a role in society, a very positive role. So I pour in, and even at work, we pour into the men the same way we pour into the women. But I believe in equity as well as equality. Equality is sameness. Equity is fairness. We had to pour a lot into the women just to get to an equal playing field. So equity was important. So when I started out at the Mavs, a big focus was on the women. It had to be because we had to bring it up to a level playing field. And so now the focus is on everybody. Yes, but I love pouring into the men and the women, and I think we have a role to play, especially as women, in raising our daughters, but also in raising our sons to be respectful, caring, loving people who want to make a difference in life. And my sons are so focused on philanthropy and doing great things in the world. And that's because we poured that into them. They have a special role to play. Thanks for that question.
Okay, we have a question from the Zoomers. So, Cynt, having lived in other places, do you find a greater sense of involvement in Dallas?
I love the Dallas community. So growing up in the San Francisco Bay Area, we were always involved in activities. That's where I spent, short of the 3 months in Birmingham. My parents moved when I was a baby. I spent the first 47 years of my life in the San Francisco Bay Area and very involved in all kinds of activities. Right now, I'm the chair of the board of Dallas CASA, a court-appointed special advocates. My first time I was involved in CASA was in the San Francisco Bay Area. So I've been involved in CASA for a very long time. When we moved to North Carolina, there was a great sense of involvement in community. What I love about Dallas, and I tell people, not only is it physically in the middle of my 2 worlds, so California and North Carolina, it feels like it's the middle. It's a big metropolitan area where people are focused on helping people. People are all about doing good and making the community better. And I've seen a real sense here, especially the past few years, on a focus on equity and inclusion and making sure that we are all in this together. And so I'm kind of used to that. And then the Southern hospitality. So I have just landed in the right place. I've landed in a place that speaks to who I am as a person who wants to serve. There's a huge service spirit in Dallas, and I love that. So I'm here in the right place. Y'all ain't gonna get rid of me. I'm one of us. I'm one of us.
He mentioned CASA, and so I just have to shout out to the NCJW group. So NCJW Dallas is actually the catalyst for CASA coming to Dallas. We actually helped to get that started.
That's fabulous.
So we're, and
That's
that's
fabulous.
yeah. And
Thank you.
Sure. But thank you for keeping it strong and keeping it going. So it's one of the many, many organizations around the city that NCJW was either solely or in partnership with other service groups responsible for getting started so that we can make our city, a better place for all of us.
Yeah, I love that. It goes back to the priorities that Elaine asked about. I mean, it's about making sure that all these kids who are in foster care, who end up in the child welfare system through no fault of their own, making sure that they have a caring adult in their life, because some of them go from foster home to foster home to foster home, but you need that one caring adult, that CASA volunteer that's going to help get them through life and hopefully into a permanent and stable situation. And even those who age out of foster care, they still have their CASA. So thank you for bringing that to Dallas.
All right, I'm going to give the last call for questions. Yes.
A Mavericks question.
Yes, go Mavs. I love it.
As this group, we love that what you're doing is good.
Yes.
And we know that you support a lot of these very nonprofit.
Yes.
So not to be negative or positive, other than positive, what's the pros and cons of working?
Okay, so I'm on the Zoom camera, so I'm not getting any comments. Okay. No, the pro is he is brilliant, and he hates it when I even say that, but he is brilliant. And he knows stuff, and he thinks a certain way, and he just thinks everybody knows the stuff. It's like, not everybody knows that, okay? So he is brilliant, and I just believe truly that the Lord puts certain people on the earth to truly make it better, and they just think at a different level. They bring a certain amount of innovation. They just think differently. And so I think he is one of those people. He will say that he's learned a lot about inclusion since I've been with him, that, there's a difference like between diversity and inclusion, or equity and equality. And he will tell you he learned a lot of that from me. I don't know if he learned it from me or not, because I just think he's brilliant, but he'll say that he learned it. And so I like the fact that he is open. He is open to new things. He's open to try things. He has a lot of ideas. And so he's pushing a lot of ideas all the time. And it's like, hold up, boss. And so you got to be ready. You got to be ready to move fast. What I do also love about him is if we try something and it doesn't work, I can tell him it's not working. He's like, okay, don't do that. And, and he's got a lot of money. So he's like, okay, so that didn't work. So let's try something else. So that works. And I love that he is so philanthropic. But he's moving fast. And sometimes we have to slow him down. I also like the fact that he lets us do our job. I mean, he lets me do my job. And at the point I am, where I am in my life, I need you to let me do my job because I need you to let me lead. And he does that. But he also taught me the business of basketball. He's still teaching me the business of basketball. I could text my boss right now. He would respond in less than a minute. As busy as he is, he will respond in less than a minute. And then depending on the tone of my message, he would call and say, you okay? I said, I'm okay. And he's that busy. Like, he's too busy to do that. But he will do it. He will do it. He's got my back. He's got my back, and he's got the back of this whole community. He's got the back of the country. He's a good guy. He's a good guy.
Well, Cynt, it has been an honor, a pleasure. So fun to have you here.
Thank you.
We are thrilled to have you be part of our sisterhood.
Yes.
And all of the toys.
Sisterhood.
Goals.
But when I was in sorority college, it was 110 people that didn't look like me and me. And I'm telling you, it was one of the best experiences of my life. Is just being embraced and just that whole sisterhood. That's why I learned the song "No Man Is an Island" from having Vespers every Monday night. So I feel like I'm with my sisterhood. Like I finally found my sisterhood in Dallas. So thank you for having me today.
I see things still back there.
Yes.
Please help yourself. And Cynt's gonna go sit out at the table signing some postcards.
Fabulous. Here's our man. Thank you, sister.